Hi friends, I'm Urvashi, and today in this video I'm going to be talking about the debilitation of Mars and how it impacts us all. Before I start, for all those who haven't subscribed, remember to subscribe and also remember to tap the bell icon. So I'm going to make this video because we are going to experience the debilitation of Mars from the 23rd of June to the 10th of August. So that's coming in a couple of weeks. But you can watch this video if you generally want to know what the effects of having a debilitated Mars means. What is Mars? And so you'll get a hang of what this is about. So let's see, what is Mars? In our body, Mars is our bone marrow, and Mars gives us energy. Mars gives us strength. Mars gives us the nerves and the guts to stand up to a situation, to make decisions, to stick to our decisions, to take action. Basically, Mars is energy. Mars is fire, and fire has two sides. So Sun is the light and Mars is the heat. So it's heat energy, and this fire, this heat energy gives us, propels us to move forward, to take action. So I'd like to explain this in a very simple way, because like I mentioned in one of my recent videos, that when we, as small children, we are represented by Mercury. All boys, all girls, we are all Mercury till the age of puberty. So at the age of puberty, boys are then represented by Mars and girls are represented by Venus. So now let's talk about boys who have just entered that age, who have just entered their teens, because now they are Mars. And how do we see those boys? What are those boys? They are like a ball of energy. They have a lot of energy. I know that because I have a teenager. So I have a son who's a teenager, and I know what it's like to have that kind of a Mars energy. It's a lot of energy. So Mars, Mars is in its sign of exaltation, or in the sign of Capricorn. To explain that again simply to you, I would say my son was in a boarding school for about 3 years. So that was Mars in exaltation. Why? Because the entire day was so structured for them. They would, lights would be off at 8:30 at night. They would be sleeping by 9. They would wake up at 5:45. Then they had morning studies, morning games. Then of course the entire day of school, and then evening games, evening studies. Even Saturdays and Sundays were planned throughout. No mobiles, no iPads, no nothing like that. So no games. No screen time basically for them. They all had a laptop each, but it was only educational sites that were open for them. And so that I feel personally, I was very happy with the entire thing, because that's giving that Mars energy a lot of structure, utilizing that Mars energy for maximum gains. So children learned to play a lot of games. So I've seen children in boarding schools start enjoying every sport. They start enjoying hockey, basketball, cricket, football, tennis, everything, swimming. Whereas usually now he's back. He's back to a day school. So it's just a couple of games, because they don't have that kind of a life here. It's only the school ends at about 2:30, and then these kids are home. And we can't have that kind of a structured life the way they do in a boarding school. One should in fact have it, because at that age the energy level is very high, and it's important to channelize that energy in a structured form. Not just the games and sports, the cultural activities, the theatre that they were learning there, music that they were learning there. So the time was structured so much that the energy was channelized in a proper way. So that is a exalted Mars. I don't know why most people think Mars in exaltation means just the police, just the army, just fighting. No, it does not. Mars in exaltation means having the energy structured, because the sign of Capricorn is the most structured sign. Mars gets exalted there, and Mars does well in the earthy signs. So it does well in Virgo and Taurus as well, because the energy gets some structure. But Capricorn is a sign of rules, regulation. It's a sign of the boss, the 10th house. So you got to be structured when you're there in front of the boss, right? Now what happens? Now you take that energy and you bring it back home. So my son was home for about 4 months and he had nothing to do. Nothing. It's like the sign of Cancer. And what is the sign of Cancer? Cancer is a flowing river. The coolest place to be. Just be sitting by a flowing river, and it's a cool feeling, So now you bring that structure, you bring that ball of energy, and you give it that free time and free space, and what children normally have at home. You can't have those rules and regulations at home, because then children tend to rebel at that age. So they get a lot of free time, and they have lots of gadgets, and they play a lot of PUBG and lots of other games, and they're whiling away their time. And now what happens? Now the energy is not getting utilized properly. They're not gaining anything, they're not learning anything, and then the confidence somehow starts depleting. One starts losing confidence in themselves. When they're doing everything, they're learning a lot, they're confident, they're happy. Here they tend to be enjoying the moment. They're more relaxed, they're doing nothing, the energy is not being utilized. The energy is very high, it's not being utilized. And so what happens when our children are at home? We always tell them, don't do this, don't do that, leave the iPad alone, you can't have so much of screen time, you got to do some reading. And then there is a lot of friction between you and the child. There is a lot of emotional disturbance. So that is how I simply wanted to explain what Mars is in Cancer is about. The energy is not channelized properly, the energy is not used properly. That is what happens. I've seen a lot of people with exalted Mars and debilitated Mars. So exalted Mars people, I'm in fact going to do a Mahapurush yoga video very soon, so I'm going to explain the details there. But exalted Mars people, when they decide on doing something, they just go for it, and they go for it wholeheartedly. They don't give up. They're not just saying something and not going to do it. They're just going to do it all the way. They're going to make that effort 100%, 200%. Whereas Mars in Cancer people, even if they say they're going to do something, they will not have the energy. That energy will not be channelized properly to go ahead and complete that one task that they decided on doing. Sometimes they may just leave it midway. So what happens then? Gradually they start losing confidence. So these people don't tend to use their energy very well. So that is one of the major differences. So now Mars is going to be in Cancer. Our energy is going to be like sitting in a flowing river of emotions. It's a river of emotions, relaxation, comfort. That is what Mars is in Cancer. And then Cancer is a watery sign. Mars is a fiery planet. What happens when you light fire with water? When you light a fire and you put a pot of water on it, what happens? What do you get? You get a lot of steam, and that means a lot of heat. So there's going to be a lot of steam there now, lot of emotional steam, lots of emotional turmoil, emotional instability. So that is why Mars does not do so well in Cancer, because the energy is not regulated in a proper manner. The energy is put in the house of emotions, in the house of relaxation. And so Mars in Cancer, when Mars comes in Cancer, like it will be now, or if it is there in your natal chart, you may tend to while away your time quite a bit doing nothing, and in the process be very emotional. You will feel sensitive, you will feel emotional, because your energy has come to that house, your action has come to that house. Your action is, Mars is all about action. Where are you going to put your action? Now you're going to put your action into emotions. You're going to feel very, very emotional. You're going to feel very receptive, sensitive, hypersensitive to other people's behavior, to what other people say. You're going to read, what is that saying? You're going to read a mountain out of a molehill. So the slightest of things is going to be felt by you very strongly. You're going to be hypersensitive to what others say or do, and you're going to be reading too much into everything. Confidence is going to be less. The utilization of energy is not going to be very systematic, very regulated. Sometimes you may do something, sometimes you may just leave something midway. Emotions, yes, where emotions are concerned, there you're going to be good. You're going to be able to read emotions very easily. You're going to be able to read emotional behavior, emotional reactions very easily. You're going to be more susceptible to reading other people's behavior. You're going to be more open. You're going to be more aware of how others are behaving with you, and you're going to be harboring a lot of feelings You're going to be very sensitive to the smallest of things, and you're going to be keeping a lot of things inside of you. You don't want to attack, you don't want to fight, you don't want to react, because the energy is not channelized, in a regulated way. So you're going to be wanting to be a little defensive. You're going to be listening to a lot of things that you don't like, but you're going to be harboring it because it's the heart area and you keep a lot of things there. So Cancer people don't forget things easily. They tend to remember a lot of things. They tend to remember the minutest of things they will remember. And now that we have Mars in Cancer, so you will remember everything. You will feel hurt about the smallest of thing and you will remember them. And then one fine day, when the threshold is reached, you will blast. So that is how the reactions will be. Either there will be no reaction, either there will be no action, either you will just while away time, or there will be a blast of emotion, blast of reaction, really bad fiery reaction, like a steam coming out of that vessel of boiling water. So that is how Mars in Cancer is. Yes, if you are in the creative arts, if you are into some kind of a creative project where emotions are required, like singing, like acting, something where emotions are required, there you are going to be doing very well, because Mars is action and Mars is in the house of emotions. You understand emotions, you are very sensitive to emotions right now. So in any kind of a creative activity, you're going to be doing very well. So your any kind of actions whatever actions you do will show a lot of emotions in it. You will have a lot of emotional outbursts. If you're working, you're going to your office, all of your actions will involve a lot of emotions. You will feel emotionally very connected to whatever you're doing. But you may feel a little lethargic, you may feel that you're drained out, the energies, you may not feel very energetic at this point of time. Why? Because this ball of fire is in this relaxed river leisurely time area where you just go and spend your time sitting and doing nothing. It's not in the office right now. Mars is in the Mars does great in the 10th house, so it is in the opposite sign. It is in the 4th house, in the house of relaxation, not in the house of action. So action will take a back step and emotions will take a front step for you in this month and a half. Of course, action will still be there depending on where Mars goes, the house that Mars goes, but sometimes you may not be able to take the action in a very systematic and planned manner, and emotions may come and hamper your action, and the end result may not be very favorable sometimes. So that is the difference between an exalted Mars and a debilitated Mars. Now I'm just quickly going to be touching all the zodiacs and talk about how this can impact all of us, all the different zodiacs. So with Aries, this is in the 4th house. So the action has come in the 4th house. Emotions will be high at home. There could be some arguments at home. There could be a little frustration that you feel at home. You may feel very sensitive to the environment at home. Be careful about vehicles, about fire accidents at home. Of course, this all will be very minor. All depends on your birth chart. Be careful of any property deals that you do during this time. Not a very favorable time. You could make mistakes, you could be hasty, and your action will not be very planned and systematic. You may miss out on certain papers that you should have gone through properly. Let's talk about Taurus. For Taurus, this is in the 3rd house. 3rd house is again our communication, our neighbors, friends, and all the physical activity that we do, and our mental activity as well. So here you may have certain arguments with your neighbors, your friends, your siblings. You may be a little too hasty in your communication. The communication may not be very structured. So be very careful again about road accidents, because 3rd house is also short distance travel. So in your haste, because you may not be very systematic, you may break certain rules on the road. You may end up encountering small minor accidents on the road also. Now let's talk about Gemini. So for Gemini, this is in the 2nd house. The 2nd house is about wealth. Now whenever Mars comes in the 2nd house in transit, we want to normally we feel very energetic about making money, about different ways of making money. We want to explore different ways of making money. But when Mars is in debilitation here, you will be quick in buying things, because the second house is also movable assets. You would be a little rash where shopping is concerned. So this month you may end up buying certain things for your home. You may just go somewhere and like something, and quickly it may remind you of something and some emotional attachment to something in the past, and just in a rush of emotion you may just buy that. For Cancer ascendant, this is in the ascendant, so Mars is a yoga karak for Cancer. So being in the ascendant in a friend's house, you will feel you want to take initiative, you will feel confident. It's better than having Mars in the 12th house. Cancer has Mars in the 12th house right now, so definitely energy is going to come back to you. You will want to take initiative, you will feel confident, you would want to stand up for your rights. But because Mars is debilitated, there could be a rashness in your behavior. It may not be very planned, your actions may not be very planned, they may not be very systematic. You may be a little selfish in your approach. Now let's talk about Leo. So for Leo, this is happening in the 12th house. So whenever Mars comes in the 12th house, in this case especially since it's going to be debilitated, you will feel that you're not getting credit for your effort. You will feel that whatever effort you're making, you're not getting any results, and you may feel a little ignored, or you may feel a little as if behind the scenes. You may feel you left behind somewhere, you're lagging behind somewhere. So definitely that's not going to be a very good feeling. Keep making your effort, Leo, because it's just a matter of a month and then the planet moves on to the next level. But be careful, because Mars here in the 12th house debilitated can take you towards addictions, can take you towards wasteful expenditure. So for that you need to be a little careful. Let's talk about Virgo. So for Virgo, this is happening in the 11th house. So for Virgo, this is happening in the 11th house. The 11th house is large groups of people, network circles. So you this month, Virgo, would want to be working with large groups of people, and you would want to be leading them. You would want to work with a lot of good, with a lot of people, like some kind of a project work. You may like to be interacting with your friends, with your colleagues, and you would want to be, leading them. But this month, Virgo, you guys have to be careful. There could be a betrayal. There could be people that you consider your friends, your network circles, and they could suddenly ditch you this month. Now I'm going to be talking about Libra. So for Libra, this is happening in the 10th house. In the 10th house, you would want position, status, name, fame, and you would feel very emotional about it, because it could be delayed for some time, and then your reactions in the office, in your workplace, could be some kind of an emotional outburst. But I would strongly suggest to Libra people that don't waste your energy, don't have any kind of an emotional brawl with your boss, because there's going to be no point in it. Let this month and a half pass, you will definitely get your share of credit. Now let's talk about Scorpio. So for Scorpio, this is in the 9th house. So for Scorpio, this is about, again, travel, long distance travel, anything related to foreign countries. You would feel very enthusiastic if you're going to study something related to foreign countries, if you're going to be traveling there, or you're doing some kind of a new venture, you're starting some kind of a new venture, you're going to feel very confident. You would also feel very egoistic where your own belief system is concerned. So don't get so emotionally hung up on your belief system, because this is just a phase, and it may get you into some kind of a brawl or some kind of a mishap, because the 3rd house, the 9th house, all houses of travel. And so we don't want any kind of a mishap when you in transit somewhere. Now let's talk about the next zodiac, which is Sagittarius. So for Sagittarius, this is in the 9th house, in the 8th house. So yes, you're going to feel confident about any kind of inheritance, insurance, anything that's pending. You're going to put your energy to that thing. Some of you could be having some kind of an illicit relationship, some kind of a sexual encounter, that too could be happening for you. With your in-laws, the energy or the interaction may not be that comfortable this month. Now let's talk about Capricorn. So for Capricorn, this is in the 7th house. So yes, you may feel enthusiastic about starting some kind of a partnership, but with your partners, with your spouse, there could be a kind of a conflict or a difficult phase for the next month and a half. So even though you want to put your energy there, the end result may not be so good for that month and a half. Now talking about Aquarius. For Aquarius, this is in the 6th house. So definitely in your workplace, you may feel that your work is not being appreciated. There is too much competition. People are not appreciating your efforts, and you're not being given your due credit, and you will feel very uncomfortable in your work environment, and you will feel very emotional about your work environment. So little discomfort is going to be there, but generally it's just a transit, it's going to pass by. Now talking about Pisces. So for Pisces, this is in the 5th house. So Pisces people are going to feel very emotional, a little hyper, because the 5th house is also again your intelligence. Little hyper with your children, with your love relationships. You may lose your patience a little bit. So Pisces too, got to be careful. So see, having Mars in Cancer is great, like I said, for creativity, for any creative thing that you want to do. But this Mars may not be very supportive in utilizing your energy in the best possible way. It will cause us to be emotional, have emotional reactions. So that's what we got to be careful about. That is all for now. We'll be seeing you now in the next video. Bye bye.